Hey everybody, we're here for a new episode. Five. Oh my god, but it's not the right show.
No, it's not.
Hey everybody, we're here for a new episode. The show has yet to be named. I'm here with Johnny Donuts 777. His stuff will be in the bio. I'm here with Grizzly Adams. His stuff will be in the bio. And I'm Chubbs. So we're just gonna jump into this. This episode is more of a real podcast-ish type of thing here. We're going to be talking about our life through film. Where did we start? What got us to where we are? What made us really like movies? What kind of movies do we really like? Yada, yada, and the spiels. So we'll do this by oldest.
That means I go first? Because I probably got all the oldest films on here.
I doubt that.
No, okay. Well, I mean, I don't go past the 80s, so 1980 is my oldest film.
Well, he died in 1980 and he was reborn in 2020, so there's just like a gap.
Yeah. I guess am I going to do them all, I guess? Or
we'll just start off and we'll go together.
Okay. For me, watching movies, I started when I was about 4 years old. It was 1981. I was at my grandparents' house, and back then we used to have like the free preview on the cable boxes where they used to show like when they used to, it was first choice at the time, right? So they used to do the free preview. And I remember on that weekend, I was at my grandparents' house. I ended up watching Empire Strikes Back, Caddyshack, and Raiders of the Lost Ark all in one weekend. Now, the Raiders of the Lost Ark and Empire blew my mind because I was 4 years old to see the same guy who played Indiana Jones and Han Solo. I didn't know the same person could be two different people because I was like 4 or 5 at the time, right? So those really got my interest in watching action and sci-fi and comedy because I shouldn't have been watching Caddyshack at 5 years old.
I agree.
But my grandparents, Italian immigrants, they don't know what's going on.
What year was Indiana Jones?
I think that was 81.
And what year is Empire? 80?
80.
Okay, so yeah.
Yeah, I was about 4 or 5 years old watching them because, it was about a year before they took them out of cinemas and put them on home box office, I guess, was what you would call it.
So, yeah. Caps, you want to tell us?
Should not have been watching Caddyshack.
No, he should not have been watching Caddyshack.
I'm going to be honest with you, like the first 8 years is a total blur. So, I just truly recall like watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in the movie theater. That's like one of the first movies I actually got to watch in the movie theater. Yeah, I mean, like I went with my cousin and her boyfriend at the time. And no, I think I told the story before, but just it was such a good story, and you could tell it's a good story because we know that a lot of people don't like rodents. They kind of have this disgusting look on their face, like, it's like, oh my god. But it's a good story when you have a rodent chained up and people feeling sorry for it. So I just recall people just crying in the movie theater.
That is a powerful scene where they have Splinter locked up there, and like you feel that sympathy, like you really do. I agree with you on that.
I just want to point out that you cry for a turtle and you cry for a rat because the scene with who is it, Leonardo in the bathtub is just as bad.
Yes.
Like when Raphael's in there with him, holy crap, dude! I'll still cry right now.
Well, I mean, because Raph feels so guilty for what happened to Leo, right? So it's like,
how did you make such a good movie out of that? Good work.
Who directed that movie?
I don't know.
It was the other way around. Raph was in the bathtub.
Was it?
Yeah.
Same shit. Well, you get where we're going.
It was a turtle.
It was a turtle.
It's so funny watching that movie later on, and you could pick up on some of the things that behind the scenes things, like in that same scene where Raph wakes up and Leo and Raph are having that moment. They cut to Donatello, and he laughs. You can actually see the face.
The guy's mouth inside the actor's mouth inside Donatello's mouth.
Yeah.
I remember
you actually pick up on these things later on. No, I mean, just that was a huge That was one of my favorite films. Batman '89 was one of my favorite films. Like I just saw like my parents' collection, like back in the day, the VHS tapes, and for people under 16, you know, those are just like these big
square
blocks.
boxes. Yeah.
Just in case for Caps who's trying to like name ages here, I'm pretty sure people under like 25 now have never seen a VHS.
But no, I just remember their collection. I just remember Batman '89. For some odd reason, they had Big Trouble in Little Chinatown. I don't know how they even heard of
his
that.
parents had a really weird collection of movies.
Weird. Lethal Weapon 1. Yeah. Just a bunch of other movies.
Those are all movies I've seen in the theater.
Yeah. And then it's just like going down the wormhole of 80s films and just like the Arnold Schwarzenegger and the Stallones and those cheesy action films. And
Stallone had Schwarzenegger had a great run in the 80s with those action flicks. Like it was such a good, like you couldn't go wrong with those movies.
That first Terminator, I'm sorry, like a lot of people prefer the second one, Campos.
The right people prefer the second one, I understand. Yeah.
I guess I'm one of those wrong people, but I prefer the first one over the second one. It's this thing that started it all, and then it's just like then you listen to Schwarzenegger and Stallone and they're talking about their influences, and especially Schwarzenegger, and they're talking about Clint Eastwood, and then you go back even further, and that first Dirty Harry movie, and The Good and the Bad and the Ugly, and like you just always go back, and I have a tendency to always go even further back and all that stuff. So yeah, it's just a wide range.
Well, it was Jack Nicholson in Batman '89 that made me go back and watch Chinatown.
That's a great movie to go back to.
Right. And same thing when I watched like the Christopher Reeve Superman films. I went back and I watched Gene Hackman in the French Connection and the China Syndrome and all those.
That's another great double combo right there.
That's the benefits of being over 40, I guess. Because my first movie I went to go see in the theater was Ghostbusters.
Wow.
And not the 2016. We're talking 84, the Dan Aykroyd one.
I always have a hard time trying to remember what movie I went. Like I vividly remember seeing Batman Forever.
Poor guy.
But I like Batman Forever. It's not that good, but Batman
But
Forever,
you have that memory to it.
And either that or it could have been like Aladdin or Home Alone 2. Like I have memories about it, but I don't know if they're my memories or I just like, manifested them in my own head. But most of my childhood is like very Saturday Night Live based. I said that before. I used to watch Saturday Night Live with my dad all the time. And like I should not have been awake that late at that age, and I should not have been watching Saturday Night Live, but I was. And that immediately my whole family became comedy like people, and my parents weren't like big movie watchers either, so they kind of just let me do whatever I wanted. Like if we were in the basement, we just did whatever we wanted. But I would say like Happy Gilmore, Billy Madison, the Wayne's World movies, like Austin Powers. We should not have been watching Austin Powers. How old we were? I think we were like 10. And but that's like the whole start of my movie loving life was all that. I wasn't too into action movies. I hated horror movies, not even because it was scary. I just didn't like them, but I was scared. My cousin,
especially after watching Predator.
Yeah, well, my cousin Lisa, once when we were kids, used to scare us about It all the time. She always used to talk about It, and I'm convinced that she hadn't even seen it. She just heard about it and was using it to scare us. But then they got Scream, and they made us watch Scream, me and my sister, and not only did it end up being one of my favorite movies of all time, like top 5 probably, but it was so scary when I watched it, and it put me off of horror movies for a long time. But I wasn't very diverse. Like my immediate love at that age was Scooby-Doo, Batman, Ninja Turtles. If those 3 things were like, and still to this day, every Scooby-Doo animated movie that comes out, I watch it. I've not missed one. I've seen every show. So yeah, that's
Scooby-Doo's great. Like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with Scooby-Doo.
I'm very heavy in comedies. in the
Yeah,
90s.
see, whereas
Dumb and
me,
Dumber and stuff.
yeah, for me, it was I was very much into the sci-fi. I was a sci-fi kid. Another movie like I watched when I was really, really young that I shouldn't have been watching. I was maybe about 7 or 8. And this is the benefit of being the oldest child. Your parents are busy with the kids. And I am up at 11 o'clock at night watching Blade Runner.
Yeah, like imagine being a little kid watching Blade Runner. You don't even know what the hell's going on.
I had
Just
no
like,
idea.
Yeah.
I just, like I said, Harrison Ford. I became a lifelong Harrison Ford fan after that, right? Like I said earlier with Empire Strikes Back and Indiana Jones. And now I see him in Blade Runner. I was like, what is going on here?
It's crazy the amount of iconic roles that he has. And this is not even like, I don't mean this in like a super negative way, but he's not the greatest actor. And he also doesn't have the best track record of movies either. But he's been in so many roles that are so stupidly iconic that it's just crazy.
Yeah, like I mean, yeah, and going back when I was in my teens after and early 20s, and I went back and I rewatched Blade Runner, I actually understood the story behind it, and then I ended up watching the director's cut as well. And director's cut is it's a little convoluted. I actually prefer the original over the director's. Hate me on that one, but
the director's cut is the one with the voiceover, right?
Yeah.
That's absolutely terrible.
But the original had it left it hanging whether Decker was a replicant or not. You didn't know. Whereas the director's cut just flat out tells you that he's a replicant.
The best version for me is the one that came out, I think when it first came out on DVD. It's the one I have right now on 4K, and I have the Steelbook. I don't know what it is. It's not the director's cut. It's not the regular cut. It's the
definitive.
The definitive edition, yeah.
The definitive edition, yeah. That's the one I
if
have.
anyone's gonna watch Blade Runner, that's the one you should watch.
Yeah, the definitive edition. And then after Blade Runner, for me, it was Aliens too. The James Cameron Aliens. That was like my first. Technically, that's my first horror movie. And it was a sci-fi horror movie. And that was what, 87, 88, maybe 86, somewhere in there. I was about 10.
I was about born.
Yeah, so it's like for me, it was a lot of like I was very heavy in the sci-fi and action in my early days.
Yeah, I would. Oh, Caps, you could say something. It's been a while since you said anything.
No, like I just when you were talking about Star Wars, I do recall like I didn't watch my first Star Wars film until like maybe grade 7, grade 8, and I remember it was a buddy of mine. He's like, here, just take these and just. Once again, going back, VHS tapes.
The gold box one?
I can't remember. But
I had the black
he's
box
like,
one.
just take these 3 videotapes. And it's like the first 3 Star Wars films. I'm like, okay, sure. And I'm watching, it's like, what the hell is this? And just right after that, I just went down a sort of a Harrison Ford wormhole and like Clear and Present Danger and Patriot Games and Indiana Jones and what was the one where he was the president? Like, gosh,
Air Force One.
Air Force One, Fugitive. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, Fugitive's a good one.
Came out with a lot of films like during that time. My childhood was based around watching movies on City Pulse. Remember City TV or what it was?
Everywhere.
Yeah, that iconic voice.
Mark Daly.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just a lot of that, man. A lot of action films. I was never into the comedy films like Campbell's ones, like Dumb and Dumber and all that stuff. Like
but that was like a whole family thing. Like between me and my cousins, like our whole family was like based around these comedies. Like Seinfeld as a show is like became like the baseline of like everything we did. Like the younger kids now don't remember it, Anthony and whatnot, but that's like what we did, what we had back then. I was like a 8-year-old kid watching Seinfeld and Friends and Frasier. That's my whole life is that. And my Star Wars is like, hold on, before I say that, by the way, in Canada it was way different. If you're from the US at that point, if you stayed up late, everything on TV was rated R after like 8 o'clock, p.m. There was all rated R movies. Where in the States, you guys didn't even get rated R movies on TV until like the last 5 years. This is like in the 90s. If you were up past 12 o'clock, there was like naked, like softcore
the Baby
porn.
Blues. Who remembers the Baby Blues on City
Diaries
TV?
And like all this shit there. There was like softcore porn on at 12 o'clock on like every channel.
Silk stockings.
Yeah. So, anyways, like I said, my dad was like, comedies, here, take these comedies, we're gonna go watch this. Like, we've talked about it before, like really weird random things. Clifford, we're gonna go watch Clifford. Like, what?
I remember once I was with your dad. Your dad rented a movie, and it was called Brewster's Millions with Richard Pryor.
Brewster's Millions. I love Brewster's Millions.
But I mean, it was so random because you got to watch this movie. It's a great movie. Yeah. And it's like, okay.
Rob's preference for movies is anything with anybody from SNL from that era or SCTV. If it has John Candy, comedian. If it has John Candy or Eugene Levy, it's a good movie. If it has Adam Sandler or Mike Myers, it's a good movie. And like
very much.
So my mom was really weird. My mom doesn't even to this day, like, she loved Marvel out of nowhere. She watched all the first Marvel movies, but then refuses to watch any of the new ones now. She's the weirdest. Don't even talk to her about movies. But we went to Walmart one day. We used to go to my grandmother's house for the summer out near Windsor. And we would go to the Walmart. So she bought me the 3-pack of Star Wars, the 3-pack of Back to the Future on VHS. That's all I did all summer was watch those. I don't know how old I was, like maybe 7.
That's another one too, is the Back to the Future trilogy. That was something else.
Right. Mm-hmm. And it's like that, those became like iconic things for me. And like, I'm not the hugest, I like Star Wars. I enjoy watching anything Star Wars. I get excited for Star Wars, but I don't consider myself like a fanboy. Like, if Star Wars went away forever, I wouldn't care. But I still enjoy watching them. I enjoy Indiana Jones, but the only thing my mom really gave me was like James Bond. Like, because she's from England, James Bond is like iconic to them. So like, I've been watching James Bond since I can remember. That's my number one thing in the whole world that I fanboy for is James Bond. Anytime there's a new James Bond, I'm 100% going to be there.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the new one too. Was it No Time to Die?
Yeah. Daniel
Craig's swan song.
Yeah, and he's been good so far.
Yeah, he's been I would say the best since Sean Connery.
Yeah. Oh, Pierce Brosnan was very good in GoldenEye. And then
he had one good movie.
Yeah.
Pierce Brosnan.
Timothy Dalton, both movies are good, but he was too realistic and people didn't like it.
The one, which one was the one with Timothy Dalton and Christopher Walken was the villain with the whole Silicon Valley one?
No, that was Roger Moore. A View to a Kill. Great theme song, by the way.
Yes, Duran Duran. Shout out to Duran Duran.
That's a good one. And so what's the other one? The Aha has a really good one too. Oh my god.
That was a Timothy Dalton one, wasn't it?
Is it? The Living Daylights? Yeah, that's a great song. Yeah. James Bond had some great theme songs. Like, James Bond is so iconic and it's been going for so long.
Like, even up to the theme song with Adele, Skyfall was great.
Yeah, I love the one Chris Cornell and Alicia Keys from Casino Royale. That's a really good one.
I didn't like the Jack White one.
No, I wasn't a big fan of that either. But you know, like there's the Sam Smith one was pretty good too. I think that's from Spectre. James Bond. But anyway, so that's my childhood of movies. In my teen years, I was too cool for movies, and everything you watched was whack, and I was too cool. I really got into action movies at that point. That's all I watched, and gangster movies. That's all that was cool. So any Boys in the Hood, Goodfellas,
Blood In, Blood Out,
the Transporter, like stuff like that. That's what I was watching, which is like the kind of people that I hate now. So, but
I mean, my teen years, my teen years were very lean. It was 4 movies I think stand out most. It was Batman '89 because I was already a teen by that point. Batman '89, I would say. I think Mallrats is another one that got me into my Kevin Smith fandom when I saw Mallrats for the first time. I'm like, holy geez, they can actually say these things in movies. Like, I was really shocked. And that pretty much got me through high school, was the Kevin Smith, I guess the first 2, like Clerks and Mallrats. So with Mallrats, I went back and I watched Clerks after that. And for me, a really big coming of age film for me was Good Will Hunting. That kind of got me back into more serious drama, I don't want to say heartfelt, but like heartfelt films. Before it was just like action, kill, blow up, raunchy comedies. But after watching Good Will Hunting, that speech or that session when they had the therapy session with Matt Damon and Robin Williams there, like, you really feel for both characters.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
Underrated. Like, it was popular at the time, but it's kind of dropped off. But Harvard, right?
You know Miramax is going to cast Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, right?
Right, always.
phantoms in the motherfucker. So, it's funny. I was just talking about that yesterday. Someone's like, "Have you seen the Phantom?" And I was like, "Yeah, this and that." I'm like, "You know, movie's better than that." I'm like, "Phantoms with Ben Affleck." Yeah, anyways, sorry, Caps. Go ahead.
No, it's just later on. Is for me when Matrix came out, I was like,
we were really heavy into renting movies at that point. There was a movie store at the corner.
Yeah, this is very interesting. I recall. I don't care. I'll say it. I went to watch Titanic in the movie theater with my family. I'd never seen so many people cry in my life.
You want to hear two good stories? I got kicked out of a theater. I went to see Titanic twice because one time I went with my mom and her friend and like a bunch of kids that came with us, and I was like, whatever. Then the second time I got forced to go watch it again with like family friends or something, and when the guy fell and hit his head on the propeller, I laughed for like 5 minutes the second time, and the people came in and asked me to leave the theater because people were crying, and I couldn't stop laughing because I missed it the first time when the guy hits his head and he just spins into the water. I was like,
25 years, I have yet to still see Titanic. I have never watched it.
It's a whatever movie. It's not honestly, it's not something you have to see.
There's so many documentaries out there. You could just watch the documentary.
Watch the James Cameron documentaries about it. It's way better.
My cousin Kira was obsessed with Titanic, and I remember once I had to take her for like the 15th time or something like that. I actually left her in the theater and I went to the adjacent theater to watch a different movie. That movie actually finished before Titanic, so I was able to come back and pick her up.
That's hilarious. That's like what we used to do in Florida. We'd drop off all the parents at like one theater, and then everyone would go watch a different movie. Which I vividly remember seeing Wedding Singer in Florida at Tyrone Mall. So for me, I had this weird phase, like I said, when I was like a teenager and I was too cool for everything. But then I started to hang out with these guys, and we used to just smoke a lot of weed and watch movies. This guy, all he did all day was burn movies. He had a whole like chest with like little slides, the disc slots things with 2 on each one. He had like the whole thing was full of all these burned movies. So he really like got me into it. So that was the first time I saw Pulp Fiction. And I'm saying this is around right before Kill Bill 2 came out. So like 2004. So I'm like in grade 12-ish. And it was like, whoa, a movie could do this? You could start here and go here, but then all these things go there. And I was like, wow. Then I watched like the next day I watched Clerks, and I was like, wait, movies can just be talking for the whole movie and still be a good movie? Hold on, what the fuck? Then the next day I watched Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, and I was like, it's okay to cry at movies? I'm like, this is okay? Like, Bill Murray became like that movie literally solidified Bill Murray as my favorite actor. I'll watch anything that has Bill Murray. He's so versatile without ever stopping from being him. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. For me, to this day, my favorite Bill Murray movie is Lost in Translation.
Yeah, He's great in Lost in Translation.
He's
which
fantastic.
I also watched.
And that movie connected, especially with what I was going through in my life at the time. That movie connected so well with me. So well.
Bill Murray had a few bangers at that time. That guy's house just became a place where he had everything. It didn't matter if it was cool or not. If it was a movie that we hadn't seen, we could just watch it. So we would just watch a trailer. Oh, let's put this on. And then I got introduced to Tarantino, to Wes Anderson, which Wes Anderson movies blew my mind. Then I watched Royal Tenenbaums. I was like, holy crap, this shit's amazing. And then I watched Mallrats, and I watched like all these movies. And it's funny because for years you would tell us about Kevin Smith and we didn't give a shit. We were like, I don't know who Kevin Smith is. What's this guy talking about?
And then you go out and you watch Mallrats, and it's like,
it's like every Kevin Smith movie to me including Jay and Silent Bob is like a great movie, and they're all different. Like they're all a different style of movie, basically.
But they all connect. They all connect, though. Those first 4 or 5 films, they all tell a story. They call it the View Askew universe, right?
Yeah.
And they all connect in different ways. That's why callbacks sometimes in those films are are a neat little nod to previous films, right? You'll always have the same characters with different names, like the actor who plays Brian O'Halloran. He plays Dante in Clerks, but then he plays another guy in Dogma. He plays another guy in Mallrats, right? It's
Tell him Steve Dave.
Steve Dave, right?
And
Brian Quinn
yeah.
from Impractical Jokers came from the Kevin Smith world.
I'm telling you right now, as stupid as it sounds, and like it's not even a memorable thing, but that one line's "Tell him Steve Dave" is like it's like burned into my memory, and their podcast is called that now. I think.
Tell him Steve Dave. Yeah.
Walt Flanagan. Steve Dave. That's when they go to see Stan Lee, right? And outside of the store, have a chocolate covered pretzel.
Right? That introduced me to what's his name? Michael Rooker.
Yeah, Michael Rooker. And who plays not Brody? Is it Brody? Jason Lee?
Jason Lee. He plays Brody. Jason Lee. And then you had Shannon Doherty in that film.
Ben Affleck,
yeah. Goes to prison for statutory.
Oh, Ethan Serpley or whatever, the guy Supley that's staring at the I can't see it.
The damn sailboat. And then they went out to star in My Name is Earl together.
My Name is Earl. No, was it? Yeah.
Jason Lee and Ethan Supley.
That's a good movie. I mean, a good show.
He lost a shit ton of weight now.
Yeah, he's jacked. Caps, what happened to you when you turned a teenager?
What was your coming of age?
I mean, when I saw The Matrix, I was like, oh, that kind of blew me away. But then, rewatching and getting a good grasp of some of the older movies later on, it's like, oh, this is actually a really, really good movie. But, I mean, for me, it's always been like Godfather. When I see Godfather, it's like, okay, I got to watch the whole movie. That's pretty much it. Like I just have a tendency to keep going back, like 70s, 60s. Just
I think there's a lot of undiscovered stuff there that's really good, and people just don't remember stuff like that. Especially in the 80s. In the 80s, like 60s and 70s, you can find most of the gems. The 80s and 90s were such an amazing amount of movies coming out on a constant basis that there's stuff that I still have never heard of that I find, and I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, never heard of this. I find my next stage of movies was finding Superbad, finding Sergio Leone. That is like when I realized that all of Quentin Tarantino's like entire like repertoire is just Sergio Leone. It's like when I watched The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, I was maybe like 25, and it changed. I changed my whole opinion on movies again. I started having this whole new thing to look at, right? And that's when I definitively decided that without a doubt, my favorite movie is Ferris Bueller. It's so funny. It's so well made. There's no evil bone in that entire movie. It's so good hearted and like well meaning, and it has a message, and it's like the perfect movie to like watch anytime. It will always make you feel good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For me, it's Breakfast Club.
Same guy. So I'll take it.
And what's the thing about Breakfast Club was every male character in that film. So Judd Nelson, Emilio Estevez, and Anthony Michael Hall. I was basically a bit of all three characters. And that's why same thing as I got older too, that movie resonated a little bit with me as well.
It's funny how movies that you find, it changes the meaning as you grow. I always try to explain this to people, and people are always like, no, you're just trying to tell me what to like and stuff. It's like, no, I don't care what you like, but you have to understand, as the older you get, your opinions on things are going to keep changing, your tastes are going to keep changing, and the way you view the same thing is going to change.
Like, you see it in a different light as you get older. You appreciate it a little bit differently, I guess, is a way to put it. Like going back, sorry, Nick, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, what I was saying, going back to like when I watched, like the first movie I ever watched, like I said, was Empire Strikes Back. And that was when my love of Star Wars really, like I've been a fan of Star Wars ever since. And especially with the prequel trilogy, I was jaded. And I would say the last film on my list for this would be when the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie came out. And I'm like, okay, this is a Star Wars movie without Star Wars in it. And it just brought my love of sci-fi back in. Like, it's like, this is what it could be, but unfortunately it's not. And that's kind of what basically got me back into the Marvel films and stuff like that. And back
for
into
me,
my love
The
of
Dark
comics.
Knight, later Iron Man became like very important to me, and I think it's a very important movie in cinema in general, especially for comic book movies. But Dark Knight, arguably the best comic book movie ever made, is it showed me that you can like comic book movies. It's okay. Like, you don't have to pretend that you don't like them. You know what I mean? And then when I got to the next one that was like, I just absolutely love comic book movies now. There's nothing I can do to stop it. Was Captain America Winter Soldier. I was like, yeah, I'm on. You took a character that I could care less about. I absolutely hate this character. And you made me be like, wow, I hate Captain America, the first movie. It sucks.
It wasn't, yeah.
And everyone loves it for some reason. But when I saw this, I was like, you got me back. And I still love Winter Soldier to this day. He's so good in the new show.
Winter Soldier has always been one of my favorite characters, and to this day, I agree with you. The Winter Soldier, like Captain America, Winter Soldier, is in my opinion the best Marvel film they've done.
Like, overall as a movie, like, technically, I agree 100%.
That's the best out of whatever 25 they have. That Winter Soldier is the best one.
Yeah, I was just going to go back to some of the things, some of the points you guys brought up. We're all going to have different tastes, and based on this video, you guys are very influenced by Marvel and comedy films. Something that I'm not too much into, but us movie enthusiasts will always look back and see some of the movies that were influenced by other movies. Like, we'll always keep going back, and just a couple of years ago, I don't even remember watching this before. I could have, but I don't remember. But I just watched Citizen Kane, and
the camera work in that movie is mocked by everybody now. Like, like a copy, not like
a lot of people. Yeah, a lot of people was like, "Oh, this is the greatest film of all time." I'm watching. It's like, okay, well, On the Waterfront.
That's a great movie. I love that movie.
Is a really good film.
It's like, okay.
Streetcar Named Desire. Marlon Brando's great.
Yeah. Apocalypse Now. Like,
Apocalypse Now. Like, I remember watching that back in the day. I just had to watch it again because there's a few things that I don't remember. So, like, yeah, we're all going to have different tastes.
Yeah.
I watched a lot of The Waterfront, and, it's okay,
But
we all have different tastes. We all have things that we like and things that we're not into.
You can like or dislike anything. I think the way that people need to learn to draw the line is, I don't like Godfather, let's say, but I should at least be able to appreciate why it's such a good movie. Whether or not I like it, it doesn't matter. And if I like a movie that sucks, I should understand that it sucks, but I'm still allowed to like it.
We're all entitled to our own opinion, right?
Exactly.
Like,
it's not necessarily a bad film, but I don't like it. It's just not my personal taste.
There's a difference between something being bad and not liking it, and liking something and it being good. Yeah. But my last thing for me is my late in life love for like slasher movies, which came from just watching Scream. I started allowing myself to watch horror movies because I wasn't willing to experiment with horror movies. It's an uncomfortable zone for me, and it's weird to even talk about it, but it was like an uncomfortable place. I didn't want to be there. I don't like the idea of being scared. I didn't want to do it. But then the slasher genre allowed me to be scared and have fun at the same time, which is like where I discovered Evil Dead. And this is a while back, obviously. And then horror comedies all of a sudden became a thing for me. And that's, like I said, that and buddy cop movies are like my favorite subgenres. I love horror comedy. Anything with Ash in it is automatically getting watched by me. The Evil Dead show is great.
Nice.
I love that stuff, like Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street, all of that, Halloween. That's not horror comedy.
Army of Darkness. That's a great horror comedy.
Yeah, a horror comedy, if it's done right, can be the best. And that probably comes from my love of Scooby-Doo, because that's what it was.
Horror comedy, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Well,
even
it used
even
to be.
yeah. Well, even take a series like, for example, another one of my favorite movies of all time is Rambo, but the original, First Blood. That movie was such a great story because it was based on a book.
Yeah.
And they took that novel and they made it into such a fantastic film. It tells about a soldier when he comes back from Vietnam, dealing with PTSD and all that. Like, he gets arrested for like a minor crime, and then he ends up like going crazy in the jail cell, and like, then he goes on the run. It's such a departure from the rest of the Rambo films that I think that should be its own film and not part of that Rambo series.
Yeah, because they completely throw everything they built with the character out the window when the second one comes, because he wouldn't want to go back to war. He was opposed to war. His whole fight was against war.
It's the war. He dies at the spoiler. He dies at the end of the book.
Yeah, not in the
movie though, and that's what ended up keeping that Rambo franchise. I would have appreciated it more if they killed John Rambo at the end of First Blood.
Well, there is an alternate cut
where he dies.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess we got like less than 1 minute now.
Yeah. Okay. So we're done here.
Yeah. That was my last point.
That was a pretty good episode, guys. For me. Thank you for watching. If you want to see more of this, let us know in the comments. Let us know what movie that changed your opinion. And thanks for watching. Scooby-Doo out.